doing. We are still on vacation, which you can always tell by my background. But tonight we're going to cover some of the basics. That's one of the requests that we've had for people who are both in the industry and out of it is how do we unpack the different documents that everybody signs when they're transferring property. And when you're a notary loan signing agent, purchases and refinances will include this document that can be pretty important, and that's the note. The note is really what I consider to be one of the primary documents. So, what I do when I get a packet, which can be anywhere from 20 pages to 280 pages, is I look at it like a deck of cards. How can I arrange that deck of cards to be the most logical, the best story to the person that's having to interpret and sign them? And how can I best kind of move them through the documents? So I wouldn't start, for example, with a power of attorney, right? That's kind of like a lot of trust right out of the gate. But I do start early on with the note because the note is first and foremost an IOU to the bank. So it's the individual that's purchasing the home, that's getting a lien against the home in the form of a mortgage. It's their IOU to say, I will pay back the money that you're loaning to me so that I can get into my home. It includes a lot of important information, and people are usually pretty excited to see it because it is really kind of what guides you through your payment. It'll often be all of the basics to include the date that you have to pay first. That's one of the number one things people want to see. The interest rate, if there's any prepayment penalties, and just kind of the guidelines of how are you to pay this back. And it makes sense if you think about it logically that an IOU would outline all of that. Now, it's interesting because I see the note, as I said, as one of the first things, but honestly, what our signers typically get excited about is not all of the data on the note. They want to know the first due date of their first payment. And that is always on the note on the first page, usually in the third or fourth paragraph. It'll show the time that they start to pay, and it'll show the time that they stop to pay. And this can vary, right? Because what if you have a 15-year mortgage or a 30-year mortgage? I've even seen 25 mortgages or a fixed rate mortgage. That note will be a little bit more detailed in that event. So one of the cool things about the note is that it's like everything else in our business, it's variable. You're never going to be predicting exactly what it's like. Sometimes it's a couple pages, sometimes it's 4 pages. Those are in traditional bank lending situations. I've seen notes for private lenders that are 22 some odd pages. So you can't necessarily define a note as something that is this many pages or that many pages. Sometimes it's dated, sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's notarized, sometimes it's not. So this is a wonderful example. You're going to want to be on your P's and Q's. Here's another one. Sometimes it's initialed, sometimes it's not. So the note is critical. This is not typically something that is no big deal if there's an error, right? We've got to get this one right. This is what the bank holds for all those many years. So when you're walking someone through the packet and the note's one of the first things, it's almost like saying, okay, here's the deal you're making, and it helps them move on to the more complicated tasks. Being able to precisely explain what you're seeing, people who are signing it, is really critical for this document. You don't want in any way to be a paper pusher in our industry, right? Like here, whatever, here's your note. No, right? You want to be able to explain that this is like an IOU to the bank. It outlines the terms of your repayment. It shows when your first payment is due. It shows the length of your loan, and you can take your time and read through it and review it. Typically, this is pretty quick for people. If something in the note is a surprise to your signers, that's where you're going to have to call in the mortgage broker or the escrow officer, because it's nothing that any of us can do anything about, right? So I would say that's one of the great things that we can do for people is precisely and clearly explain what the note is for. So now you know a lot about the note, and that's the exact sort of thing that we do in our work, is that our role is to make sure that every stakeholder that we interact with leaves with joy and with delight, right? That they're surprised. They thought maybe this complicated process was going to be difficult, but instead we were able to imbue it with education and some entertainment and some enlightenment. So they can leave being excited and focused on what they should be focused on. And that's getting into their beautiful new home and creating a home from a house, right? So if you want to learn more about how we do that, you're welcome to check out our website at AmericanEliteNotary.com. It's our passion. It's what we love doing. And it's part of how we help people take control of their finances and their health. Because part of taking control of your finances is creating multiple income streams. This is one of our favorites. I hope you have a great night and that your signings were light and easy today. I know July can be a busy month, but we're at the beginning of a quarter, so I want you to be thinking about your goals and making sure that you're arcing towards them as we're entering this third quarter. And just know that we're here to support you and we're cheering for you. I'll see you back here tomorrow night, live around 5.